I never imagined my Grubhub order would end with a neighbor's arrest, yet that's exactly what happened. Sheila Watkins, our HOA president, decided that my deliveries somehow violated community guidelines. It began 3 months ago, right after I moved into Oakwood Estates, a pristine suburban development where every mailbox matched and lawns were cut to precisely 3 inches. I work from home as a software developer, which also means I order delivery far more often than I'd like to admit. After finishing a grueling coding sprint that lasted several days, I decided to reward myself with a larger-than-usual order from my favorite steakhouse. I tracked the driver on my phone, saw he had arrived, and waited. But 5 minutes passed with no doorbell ring. Checking the app again, I was startled to see the status: delivered. A photo showed my meal sitting at a door that definitely wasn't mine. I immediately called the driver. He insisted he'd followed my instructions perfectly. The lady who answered said she was expecting it, he explained, genuine confusion in his voice. She even gave me your name when I asked. That was the moment I first came face to face with Sheila Watkins. She was in her 60s, blonde hair flawlessly highlighted and styled into what could only be described as a weapon-grade bob. As HOA president, Sheila patrolled the neighborhood with the vigilance of a soldier defending a high-security facility. Recognizing her distinctive teal front door from the delivery photo, I walked 3 houses down. When she opened the door, I could smell my steak dinner wafting from inside. "Excuse me," I said politely. "I think the driver mistakenly delivered my food here." Sheila's face remained impassive. In a syrupy, sweet voice, she replied, "Oh, I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. The HOA has a strict policy against food deliveries after 6 p.m. on weekdays. It's outlined clearly in Section 12.3 of the Community Guidelines." She smiled thinly. "As the Homeowners Association president, it's my responsibility to enforce these rules. Consider this a friendly first warning." I was dumbfounded. "But that's my dinner. I paid for it. Can I please have my food?" Her smile never faltered as she began shutting the door. "I've already disposed of it properly. You'll receive a written notice tomorrow. Welcome to Oakwood Estates." The door clicked shut. I was out $75 and still hungry. Furious, I ordered pizza from another service. Sure enough, the next morning an official HOA violation notice appeared in my mailbox, printed on letterhead, citing a rule that, as I later confirmed, didn't even exist in the bylaws I had received at closing. When I emailed the HOA board, all I got were automated responses. I let it go. $75 wasn't worth igniting a neighborhood war during my first month. But Sheila wasn't finished. Over the next few weeks, a disturbing pattern emerged. Every time I ordered food delivery, she intercepted it. She seemed to have a sixth sense for spotting drivers entering our cul-de-sac. Sometimes she claimed the drivers violated parking regulations by idling. Other times, she told them I had canceled but forgotten to notify the restaurant. Once, she even pretended to be my wife, saying I was indisposed and she would take the food instead. After losing nearly $300 worth of meals, I decided enough was enough. I installed a doorbell camera, documented every incident, and filed formal complaints with both the HOA board and the management company. Some board members seemed sympathetic, but none dared challenge Sheila. She had ruled with an iron fist for nearly a decade. "You don't understand," a neighbor whispered after a tense community meeting. She had the Petersons' maple tree removed while they were on vacation, said it dropped too many leaves on the sidewalk. The year before, she fined the Garcus daily until they scrubbed away their daughter's chalk drawings from their own driveway. Nobody stands up to her, so I shifted tactics. Instead of fighting, I would outsmart her. I placed a massive order from Lucao, the most expensive French restaurant in town. The bill totaled just over $520, a ridiculous amount for takeout, yes, but perfect for what I had planned. I included several pricey bottles of wine, Wagyu beef tartare, truffle-infused dishes, and decadent desserts. From my window, I watched as the driver approached. And right on cue, Sheila swooped in, intercepting him before he reached my door. My camera captured her explaining, with authority, that community regulations required her to accept all deliveries. The driver, confused but unwilling to argue, handed her my food. This time, I didn't confront her. I called the non-emergency police line. "I'd like to report a theft," I told the dispatcher calmly. My neighbor has been taking my food deliveries without permission. Today, she took an order worth over $500. I have video evidence and multiple previous incidents. 20 minutes later, 2 police cruisers rolled into our quiet cul-de-sac, lights flashing, sirens off. I peeked through my window as they rang Sheila's doorbell. Her expression was priceless, confusion melting into indignation. She gestured wildly, no doubt trying to justify her self-appointed authority to confiscate unauthorized deliveries. One officer eventually approached me. "Sir, your neighbor claims she was acting in her capacity as Homeowners Association president by confiscating unauthorized deliveries," he said, sounding skeptical. I pulled up the neighborhood bylaws on my phone, pointing out that no such rule existed. Then I played the officer my doorbell footage, not only from that day but from several earlier incidents. His expression darkened as he watched. "And the total value of this order?" he asked. $52,347, I replied, showing the receipt on my phone, which included an $80 bottle of Bordeaux and a $100 Wagyu steak. The officer gave a solemn nod. "Wait here." I watched as he joined his partner and Sheila. Their conversation grew heated, Sheila's frantic gestures betraying her panic. Then, to my shock, one officer drew a pair of handcuffs while the other began reciting Miranda rights. Even without hearing the words, I understood. Sheila's face flushed the color of overcooked salmon as they escorted her to the cruiser. That evening, the officer returned to take my official statement. "Your neighbor is being charged with grand larceny," he explained. "In this state, theft of anything over $500 is a felony. She said she threw the food out for health and safety reasons, but we found your full order in her fridge and the wine sitting open on her counter." He smirked slightly. She seemed genuinely shocked to discover that being HOA president doesn't give her authority to seize other people's property. Word spread quickly. By the following night, the HOA had called an emergency meeting with only one item on the agenda: Sheila. The community center was packed. One by one, neighbors stood to share their own grievances. The board members shifted uncomfortably as the stories piled up. When it was my turn, I simply played a compilation from my camera. Footage of Sheila intercepting my deliveries in her bathrobe, gardening gloves, or with a phone clamped to her ear. The silence afterward was heavy. The vote was unanimous. Sheila was stripped of her presidency. Howard, the vice president and a retired accountant, announced they would be auditing HOA finances for the past 3 years. He added soberly, "We've received word Ms. Watkins is out on bail, but she's facing felony charges and significant legal costs." 2 days later, I was working when a knock came at my door. I opened it to find Sheila, not the polished, domineering woman I had known, but a pale, shaken figure clutching a designer handbag like a lifeline. Her hair was limp, her makeup barely there. "My attorney says I need to make restitution," she whispered, thrusting an envelope into my hands. "This covers everything you lost, plus interest." I accepted it without checking the contents. "Thank you," I said simply. She lingered as if waiting for forgiveness, or maybe for mercy. Instead, I asked quietly, "Was it worth it? All that effort to control your neighbors over something so trivial?" Her composure cracked. "You don't understand," she hissed, eyes brimming. "I've sacrificed everything to uphold standards here, everything. And now I could lose my real estate license over this misunderstanding. Do you know what a criminal record will do to me, to my reputation?" I studied her, standing on my doorstep, stripped of all authority, and felt no triumph, just the sober weight of justice. "That was never my goal," I told her honestly. "I only wanted to enjoy my dinner in peace." Sheila opened her mouth to reply, but the electronic chime of my phone cut through the moment. "Excuse me?" I said, glancing at the screen. "That's my lunch delivery, and this time I think it'll actually make it to my door."